This is a great day in the anniversary of Baba's new life. He did something that was never done before by any avatar or great souls, high conscious beings, or saint, or whatever you want to call them, that are really of a very high level. And Baba did this, which was almost impossible to do. When any of his disciples later spoke about it, they said how impossible it was without him. He had to be there. Otherwise, this was not possible for them to do. But nevertheless, Baba did give this, and it was all embraced in that song called The New Life song. I'm going to read what was written at that time, because it so much brings out both the flavor and the feeling and how difficult and impossible it was for most anybody to live, and yet Baba lived it. He did it completely along with his men and women disciples, and as much as it was hard for them, they did it because he was there. Listen to the silent words of Meher Baba, the life story of all lovers of God is based on the practice of these words. If you are serious about living this new life, then wholeheartedly renounce this ephemeral existence. I'm going to just stop for a moment. Just try that one out. We have taken to this life in which we rely only on God. In this, our will to do or die is strengthened by the oath taken. We are merrily singing the song of hopelessness. We are inviting all calamities and difficulties. I'm just pausing on that one to think about that part. We neither wail nor over lost hopes, nor complain about broken promises. We neither covet honor nor shun disgrace. Backbiting we know not, nor do we fear anyone. This is now the color of our new life. When Erich spoke about it, because he was on that new life, he talked about someone who said that they would do the new life because Baba gave an option. You can either do it with me, or you can go home and be with your family and do it there. But you had to do all this, you see. You had to really do all this. Well, anyhow, that person talked about how much of a suffering it was and how really impossible it was for him to manage to do this without Baba's company, because Baba made it possible for all of them. And I don't know how many people in the future, or the time to come, will actually attempt it. There have been people that do attempt it, and I've even seen some of them. But this is not something for everybody. The way that Baba wanted us to live was to do selfless service. In this age of great activity, it's not possible just to be in a cave and meditate, or to be in some secluded place and do meditation as they used to do for advancement to gain God realization. But now it's different. Now it is a very active age. When Baba came to America, he liked America because of the energy. He said a lot of it was misdirected, but just the same, we had a lot of energy, and he could work with that. And he did, he did a lot. Now, I'm going to read something actually from my own book, and this is also called A New Life, but it's different than what Baba had said, but it tells you something. Some people live under the sky. Their home is the ground, surrounded by the trees or the mountains. The air they breathe is fresh. The water is from the mountain streams. Their friends are the goats and animals that graze, and the people who sit around the fire with them. The morning landscape is the rising sun and the setting moon, the clouds and the birds that sing their morning songs. This is just a part of the 1,000-year meditation, the silence of the morning, the colors of the evening sky. One day, this man rose from his seat and visited the city. He was homeless, they said, a vagrant. He had no money. He was a wanderer. He was avoided. He did no work. Dysfunctional, they thought, a good for nothing. No one will care or mourn his death. One day, the master of life and death came. He told the man, I used to live in the city, but then I wanted a new life. I took nothing with me. I gave away all my possessions. I left with my companions. I became homeless. I was a wanderer. I too would sleep under the stars at night. I too had no money. I go where I like. I have no work. I am free to do as I please. I was only interested to find my friends who were on fire with love for me. No one understands me either, so you and I have a lot in common. One day, an astrologer visited me. He said, Great sir, do you believe that the stars guide human destiny? I told him, if you follow me, I will teach you how to guide the stars. Now you are here with me. If no one mourns you when you die, you need have no care. You will be my friend and companion on my new life. This is really the story of Baba and his companions. Well, there's been a lot of things that happened with me, with Baba, when I visited him in 1960. It was May, and it was a difficult time because my dad had been so opposed to Baba and didn't want me to travel there. He did everything he could to try and stop me from going. But somehow I prevailed anyhow and I left. Now, when I was with Baba, Baba was very, very kind. He was very, very considerate of everyone, and even of my dad. And my dad, in those days, used to send him very nasty letters because he couldn't believe that, first of all, to anyone to say that he's God, and then to be living in India, which is was such a poverty-stricken land, particularly then. It was like impossible to imagine, that his son would go to India to meet this man. He would say he's God and he's going. You can imagine how he must have thought. Well, he was very opposed. Now, from Baba's point of view, Baba liked him. He would like to read his nasty letters that were sent to him. He'd even come out of seclusion, and he would be so amused by my father's rantings. But then eventually, my father began to like Mayor Baba, because Baba always sent him such a nice letter back. In spite of anything he would say, he would always get a very nice letter back. And the kind of letter that Baba would send would be that, just to paraphrase it, Dear Mr. Luck, I received your very sincere letter and very honest feelings. And I'm very happy that you express yourself this way, especially your love for your family. And because you see, my dad was always afraid that Baba was going to steal our love away from the family to Baba. But Baba is now saying how happy he is with the love that he has for the family. And that he will be sending Irwin back shortly to take care of you and the family. And he would say, love, Mayor Bob. Well, it's hard to find fault with this, you see. And my father was a man who felt himself to be a realist. He was very successful in business, in his real estate business, and he was a very self-confident person. He felt himself to be right about practically everything, or maybe even everything. So he had no qualms about himself. And now Baba is answering him in this very warm-hearted and loving manner, which he was then, after a while, he said, you know, no matter what I say, Baba sends me a letter back that's like the Bible. He would call it like the Bible. And he soon began to enjoy Baba's letters. And he would miss them if there wasn't a letter sent. And in the meantime, his own letters became more and more mild and more meaningful, and with better feelings about everything. And he was happy about the way Baba would respond to him. And he would even say, in spite of my letters, which were not very nice, Baba sends me such nice reply. And he would begin to appreciate that. So, as the years went by, I'm just going to sum up a lot of things that happened. As the years went by, he lived till he was 94. A few years before, I asked him if he thought that Mayor Baba was God, because he had a whole lot of time in between communication, correspondence, and everything. So he said, now I am one of you. That was his final words about that. He says, now I am one of you. To take a man who was so opposed and to, with love, bring him around. To be able to feel like that, think like that. You talk about miracles. This is the biggest one that you can find. You know, find a miracle of where your emotional body is transformed into one of great appreciation and love from that of anger and even a form of hatred. Well, now, that was what happened with him. Now, just to get back to 1960, when I arrived there, Baba, you know, I had never seen Baba before that, other than what I had read in the books, which were very illuminating and enlightening to read what Baba would say. But just the same, to meet him was now about to happen. Excuse me. So, Baba was on the veranda when my car pulled up, and Mariji, who was driving the car, says, "Oh, there's Baba's. He's waiting for you. He's waving for you to come over." So I scrambled out of the car, and I went over to where Baba was, but Baba, in the meantime, had gone inside the house. Now, when he went in the house, he was sitting in a chair. There was about 15 or so people in the room too, and he just opened his arms and he just welcomed me, come in. He gave me a big hug and kissed me on my cheeks, and he had me sit near him. And he asked me how I had come. So I said, Baba, I was able to come because it was your will. And I knew how true this was because for 6 months I had been trying everything to go, but I couldn't manage it. I couldn't get the money together to make the trip. Couldn't do it. Finally, out of sheer desperation, I wrote to Baba, and I said, Dear Baba, I want very much to have the benefit of your love, your direction, and your guidance. But the only thing preventing me from coming to see you is that I don't have the money to make this trip, and I've been, I know if it is your will, I'd be able to come, providing it was your wish. Now I get a letter back. One line in it wasn't a big letter. Don't worry. Circumstances will adjust themselves. Love, Mayor Bob. It's the whole thing. So I get this, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this is good. I wonder what's going to happen. Circumstances. Well, in 2 weeks later, I was there. Circumstances had adjusted themselves. What didn't happen and wouldn't work out began to work out. You know, the wonderful part about this is that, and everyone can appreciate this, when no becomes yes, there's nothing like it. If no becomes yes in your life and things work out, it's much, you really feel good about that. Well, that's what happened. Now, I'm not going to get into the actual events that occurred because that's a whole long story in itself, even though it didn't take long for it to occur. But just the same, now I was there. So when Baba asked me how I had come, I said it was your will. And I knew how true this was because nothing worked out all before, and then Baba sent that letter and everything worked out. Well, in the back of the room, there was a man. He raised his hand, and Baba pointed to him. And he said, how did you make the money to come? Because apparently one of my letters may have come to Baba, and the letters that came to Baba were all read to him. They were read out, you know, where everybody could hear it. Whoever was there could hear the letter. So he may have been there. Now, I thought immediately, this man doesn't understand. It could have, Baba said it was his will. It could have been any one of a million ways it could have worked out, you know, whatever Baba would have wanted. So this man, but when I said that, when I was thinking that, Baba went like this. He just made a motion like that. And he said, that's not important. The way he said is how he came. That it was his will. You see. Wow. So it confirmed, you know, my thoughts at the time that Baba had really intervened and done something to make that possible. But then when you really think about what an avatar is and what his consciousness is and how he is so different from the way we think and feel, he sees himself as the very self of everyone. This is a whole different consciousness than what we have. We see ourselves as separate from everyone. You know, each one has their own independent self that they're fully conscious of, and then they see things through your senses, you see the outer world and all like that. That's not Baba's experience. And how do I know? Because he said so. He explained it. He said, I am in you all. I am the very self behind your bodies and minds. That is my consciousness, is to be one with everyone. Well, when you look at that and you say, well, you know, the goal is God realization. That's God realization. To be one with everything, not separate from everything, you see. It's a big turnaround. Well, anyone that wants God realization and to enjoy the power of bliss, knowledge, experience, existence of that state, now you know what you're heading for. You see, if you follow the avatar, you follow the master, he has only one duty, one purpose, to bring you up to his level. And that's his level. See, he's got quite a level there. And no one knows about this level unless he explains it. You see, he's the only one that can even tell you what it is. For our understanding, not for our experience of it, but for our understanding of it, because we can understand a certain amount. And that's what he does. Well, now, I was there for him to show me how he really is, his real self. I wanted to know him as he really is, not just the physical form, which he was constantly saying that's not what he is. Well, if it's not what he is, then what are you? You know, you want to see what he really is in his real state. And I had read about him, of course, you know, in the books and all, but I never knew, you know, it never occurred to me that you could become what he is, that his purpose is to make you like himself. You know, this never occurred. What, me become one with God? Me be God? My father used to say, they want to become God. And you know, I think, oh brother. He would tell this to his friends, you know. We'd be sitting at the table, having dinner, and he would, all of a sudden he'd make a declaration. These are the two, my brother Edward and I, that want to become God. And then he would look at them, you know, like, what do you think about that? You know? And they would be, what do they know? You know, they would go, well, I have no idea about this. Well, I didn't like that. You know, I thought that was being very presumptuous. But the truth of the matter was, he was right. You know, this is our destiny. This is everybody's destiny, to become what God is, one with God. It isn't just to worship and to bow down and to put flowers on. That's all the outer formalities. The inner consciousness is what it's really all about. It's all about you becoming unlimitedly, that you go from limitation to the unlimited consciousness. And that's what the avatar does. You know, he comes to do this. Now, he can enlighten millions. That's what as avatar, he can enlighten millions. There are perfect masters who are also God realized, but they don't, their duty is not to enlighten the entire world, but they're just for those that are with them and their circle, or those that come into their orbit. So they can do that also, for those that approach them like that. But the avatar has got a different mission. His is for all humanity. And he will benefit each person according to each one's receptivity. We're like a vessel. You have so much capacity. He doesn't give you more than you can take, but he gives you what you can take and to overflowing even. And then the next time you come, you're ready for more. And then you keep coming and ready for more each time. But we don't even see our own readiness because everything is so subconscious in our minds. And we don't see our previous evolution and how we come into, how we evolve through all of the various forms. And he has to deal with that. He has to work out whatever bindings, impressions of the mind that you have acquired in your past history, which is mostly veiled from us because you can't remember what you were before. And he has to work that out, you see. And what Baba said about advanced souls, these are like saints or people that have higher consciousness. But their consciousness is not that of the God state. Their consciousness is where they are more of the higher planes of the spiritual path. See, the whole spiritual path is really through the planes of consciousness. That's the spiritual path. Baba doesn't take you through the spiritual path. He takes you from where you are to where you should be, you know, and he can do that. When you're avatar, everything is like a dream. It's all illusion. It's not even real. So he can take you and do whatever he thinks is the thing for your to enlighten you. Now, the beauty was I came to him for that. I said in my mind, I'm thinking, he's come to enlighten us, to enlighten me. And I've come to be enlightened. We should meet. You know, we're made for each other. So, Baba appreciated that. He did. And he gave me some really great things to understand as to what will be in the future. You know, future is sort of like a misnomer. It's not something that's necessarily going to happen because everything is happening now. You see, the only real moment is the now. What is going on now? And whatever is a future is what you imagine. You imagine that. That's not reality, it's imagination. Or if you want to remember all that has ever occurred, that too is imagination. You're remembering in your mind, imagining it. So the one moment is real, that is now. And in the now, at some point, how do you say this? It's going to be what he wants to give you, and what he wants to do, to remove everything that stands in your way. See, Baba doesn't give you anything. He's not giving you God realization. What he's doing is he's removing all the obstacles to it so that you can see it for yourself. You don't need to have somebody hand you something. This is the way it works. And he does it out of love, you know, because there is nothing but love. When you're one with everything, it's all love. Oneness, love, same thing, you know. You're one with the hearts of all beings, with the minds of all beings. There isn't anything you can't do because you become all-powerful. When you know everything, you know how to do everything. So that makes you all-powerful. And that power is only expressed for the enlightenment of others because you are one with them. And it's not like you're going to, someone does a misdeed and you're going to hurt them for that. Well, who are you hurting? You're hurting your own self? You're the one self behind the minds and bodies of everybody? It doesn't work that way. It works that way maybe in our life, as we don't want to be hurt in any manner. But for the avatar, he can be hung up on a cross. He can be skinned alive like some, he could breathe. He's not even the body. He tells us that. You hang up someone on a cross that is God realized, and you think you're really hurting them, you may as well hang your coat up on the cross there, and they can beat it, and they think that they're hurting you, and then you look at them and it's all crazy. They're ignorant. They're ignorant. They think that that's me, and not, because the consciousness of the person is not connected like that, like ours are. We're very connected to our body. Anybody goes ahead and punches you in the nose, you're going to want to punch him back, or do something, or to at least get out of the way. But in a God-realized person, his awesome presence really removes so much of the cloud of bad impressions that a person has accumulated to make themselves feel so separate from everybody and everything. It's a different thing. Here I am talking about what it is that God experiences. How do I know any of this? He explained it. That's how I know, so I'm just telling you what he explained. It's not because I experience any of that. So, I'm just like everybody else. Baba hasn't shown me or given me the experience of his all-pervading nature. But what he has done is given me the understanding of it. And that much is what I can talk about, you see, that I can tell you about. And it's wonderful, it's a wonderful understanding, because it really makes it makes a difference to know this, at least, even if you don't experience it, but at least to know what's going on, that there is a pattern, there is a way, I don't know the right word for that, but it's like a destiny, there's a plan. There's a really good plan in place that's been going on for ages, and it works, and it works very well. When Baba talked about the golden age and the dark age that we're in, well, this golden age is of prosperity and plenty and enlightenment and illumination of things, instead of a dark age in which there's so much ignorance and superstition and false beliefs, really, which make life harder. So he said he came he came this time to create the conditions for the golden age, that there will be now a golden age. When he comes next time, after 700 to 1400 years, he says that everything will be quite different. Spirituality will be different. The sciences will be at its height. The arts and music and all the arts will be at its peak. There will be a really wonderful age. But then he said when he comes next time, he will have to prepare for the dark age to follow. Whoa. So his disciples said, what, dark age? We finally got a golden age, now we're going to have a dark age. Yes, Baba said, because it's all illusion. The golden age, the dark age, it's all illusion. It's not even real. And I've come to bring you out of illusion. You have to be taken out. And these are the instruments that God has provided for the enlightenment of humanity. These dark ages and these golden ages and such. And one follows the other. Well, it makes sense, but at the same time, as they say, oi gewalt. Jesus, it's really a rough hoe here. It can be. But just the same, Baba said, so what's the solution? Hang on to me. Do what I say. Stick to the central pin of the grinding mill. If If you stick to the central pin, you won't be ground. And I am the central pin that makes everything move. When the astrologer came to Baba and said, "Oh, Baba," he was a famous astrologer too, this really happened. Astrologer came and said, "Baba, do you believe that the stars guide human destiny?" Baba said, "If you follow me, I'll teach you how to guide the stars." There you have it. So you stick to the one who's running the show. Now I'm going to tell you some very sticky point. Mr. Trump. Boy, do people have opinions about this guy. Well, the point is that Baba, when so many people get upset about him, other people love him, and it goes on like that. Well, but what about Baba? When people would mention and get especially the ones that get so disturbed over him, I had to remind them something. I said, "Remember who's running the show." When you begin to think, hey, wait a minute, it's not in Mr. Trump's hands or in this hand or any other prime minister or leader or what. They're all like puppets on the strings of the masters. These people, it's the one running the show that is the one you want to talk to if you want to talk to anybody. You don't go to the puppet man, you go to the puppet master, And this is the thing that Baba has given us to understand, that it is in the hands of the masters. And it's the master's job to advance the consciousness of humanity, of everybody. The good and the bad, it doesn't make to them no difference who's good and bad. Because those are only impressions on the mind. He's there to wipe out these impressions so that you can realize your infinite self, and you don't need no government or nobody to tell you what to do or to help you you have all the capabilities yourself. And your capabilities won't be used in the same way that you would if you were still in the ignorance of thinking you were separate from everyone, you see. So there's a whole different viewpoint here, a whole different matter. Baba wants us to feel free and happy connecting ourselves with him because he's running the show. And that's what I tell people sometimes, I get all upset about this one or that one. Don't forget who's running the show, and doing it for good purpose, for your enlightenment. You can't be enlightened just like that. You have to have the help to do so. You can't help yourself. You don't even know what to do. So you can't help yourself. You have to have the help of the one that is capable of doing that. And that's Baba's mission, his role. That's why he comes into the world, because we need that help. Now, I don't know, I've been talking for quite a while, whether my time is up now? Huh?
We got loads of time.
There's still more time?
Yeah, more talk.
All right.
More talk. Anybody have any questions?
If you have a question, go
chatting.
for it, This is it.
I do. Question. What do you do personally yourself to improve your receptivity, to keep that going with Baba on a daily basis?
Well, that's a very good question, because everybody has to deal with that, of what is to be done on a daily basis to connect more to Baba. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
There isn't anything you can do.
Good luck.
But there is, what I do is I just keep him keep the understanding in mind that he is running my life behind the scenes. And this behind the scene veil doesn't allow me to see how he does it. It only allows me to know that he does. And what he's doing has to be done in a way where I don't interfere with what it is. And I'm going to give you an example of that, because when I was in India, and this was with Baba at that time, I was there for 2 weeks. He said I could come for 1 hour, but he kept me for 2 weeks. And during that time, I was on the veranda of Guru Prasad, that's the building that Baba was in. And on the veranda, I'm thinking, I'm here to know, to see him as he really is. I want to see the real thing, not just the physical form, but the whole thing, the real thing. And I was really intense in my thoughts about that, and just then one of his women disciples comes out from the rooms there, and she says, Baba wants you to know that he is seeing to everything and that you don't have to think about anything. So then she turns around and goes back in. Baba's knowing my thoughts, my feelings. But then it starts over again. And in my mind I'm saying, but I'm still in the same place, nothing else has happened here. So as my mind begins to get really intense about it, again, this woman, the lady comes out, she says, Baba is aware of everything, and he knows everything, so you can not have to think so much. It's going to be taken care of. And she turns around and she goes back in. Now, I may be paraphrasing what happened, because I can't remember every word that she actually said the way she said it, but that's what it meant. All right, now, again, she goes back, and so I feel comforted for the moment, that, gee, look, Baba knows, he's telling me this. And then, again it starts. And this time, I'm really thinking so strongly, but I really have to know this. I have to know him in his real state. And this is now really becoming a very powerful thing in my mind. And again she comes back out. And this time she says, your thoughts are so strong that Baba is having difficulty to try and help you. He wants to help you. So just don't worry, because he's wanting to help you. And when she put it that way, then I said, well, then that's it. I can't keep going with this. And so I stopped. But it's all behind the scenes. What was he doing to help me? How was he doing? What? Who knows? I have no idea. But the fact that he even knew about it, and he's in another room the whole time, and he was there to assist, to help me with this. So it was. But then you see later on, Baba did tell me and my brother something very important. When we were leaving one day, there was about 200 people that came into Guru Prasad to be with Baba for a while, and then they all left, and we were the last ones to go out because we were in no hurry. And at that moment, Baba went like this. 4 times he went like that. And when he did, Eric was reading his gestures. He was saying, one day I will give you the highest experience. And he would go like this. Twice he did that to both me and Edward. When that happens, who knows? It'll be. That's all. It'll just have to be when it is. But in the meantime, he does that, he may tell it to you directly like he did with me, or he may be doing it anyhow, just behind the scenes, you know, because of your love and your desire and your intense, what brought you to this point of even hearing and following the Avatar is a big deal in the history of your life and in people's lives. You know, this is a big deal to be able to be feeling that you want to get closer to him and all like that. I mean, this doesn't come from nothing. Baba told me at one time, he was sent to me by another master. Who? I don't know. What? It was just a passing moment. He happened to say this. What master? I have no idea. But to me, the fact that I was with Baba was the only thing that mattered at that moment. You know, I didn't know about any other master. And how we get to the point that we're at to want to be even connected to him, there's been others that have been helping along the line. You don't just do it all by yourself. They say we follow in the footsteps of those who have gone before us. We follow in the footsteps of those who have gone before us. They're there helping also. So we can feel comforted in that, you know, understanding. We may not be able to see all the detail of it, but there it is, you know. Nothing happens out of nothing, as it's been told to us. I'm going to read you something. This is called the dream. The dreamer. One of my poems. I wrote 150 poems in 2010. I put my pen down at the end of that and I said, that's enough. If anybody can read 150 poems, they're doing pretty good. I can't help dreaming. It is something I do a lot. I'm a born dreamer. I'm doing the same thing the big dreamer does. It is said life is a dream. But whose dream? Not mine. I didn't invent this. I was born into it. What will I do next? What will happen to me next? Who is writing the script? How does he make it look so real? How did I really get here with the big dreamers, into the big dreamer's dream? How did I really get here into the big dreamer's dream? Someone tell me. My dreams are petty compared to yours, but this is all I can do. The big dreamer likes his dream. Sometimes he visits here, talks to his dream people, gives them their own dreams in his dream. Then he came to me. He said he will wake me up. This is great. Finally, I will know who I am, not just some character in a dream. At last I will know what it is to be me, the big, awake dreamer of everything.
Wow.
And that's where we're heading. Any more questions?
I think you flattened that one.
All right.
Al, go ahead.
In the discourses, Baba, there's a section where Baba says that the ego mind is a perpetual source
What?
of ignorance, restlessness, and conflict.
I'm sorry.
Baba says in the discourses that the ego mind is a perpetual source of ignorance, restlessness, and conflict. And I heard a story recently having to do with Arnavaz, that she was worried about something, and Baba said to Arnavaz, your problem is that you don't absolutely give everything to me. And it seems like the mind works that if we're able to give something to Baba, something else will come up. Something else will come up. Rather than realize that the problem is the mind. because it's a perpetual source of ignorance, restlessness, and conflict. So it's doing its job.
Well, it's our consciousness of the mind. You know, that's at the root of it. The ego is interesting. It's a very interesting aspect to ourselves. There is only one ego. It is the self, ego, self. Is like a spot in a hurricane, the eye of the hurricane. Just as the winds circle around that eye, when the winds stop, what happens to the eye? It then sees itself as everywhere. It is everywhere. It's not just within the limits of the circle of wind. It now becomes everywhere. So the same ego that you have, thinking of yourself with the mind with all of its thoughts and everything is circling around, when that ends, when that stops, then you become everywhere. You see yourself as everywhere. You don't see yourself just in the middle of a center of thoughts or feelings and all the commotion that the mind has. And Baba has to eliminate the impressions of that mind, which was created for the purpose of giving you consciousness. You see, the mind had a very important purpose, and that is so that you can develop consciousness. With consciousness, then you can know yourself. So then the impressions of the mind, after consciousness is developed, has to be ended. And that's Baba's job, to end those impressions. And then then the same ego that was the center of all the whirlwind of the mind impressions becomes the self-realized being. See, nothing changes except the impressions are dissipated. And that's how it works. It's been going on. It's a good system, you know. It's been working like that for a long time. How to develop consciousness and then how to become, to use it for self-realization. Next.
Anyone else?
Okay. Now that's been settled.
No questions.
Now you're forced to hear another poem. It's called A New Life. Did I read that earlier? I think I did. No, I think I did. No, it's called The Vault. Vault. Yeah, because the New Life poem, I read that. Here it is. It's called His Vault. This is so I can see better. Oh, there it is. No one knows what is in the vault. Only you have the combination. It is said you keep your most valuable and precious possession there. It is so valuable that when you take it out to use it, you can make any magic, you can do anything. No one can use it except you, because you also made it invisible. This vault of yours is in a place that is also hidden. Only you know where it is. No one can use it except you. Oh, wait a minute, I read that. Okay. No soldiers guard it. You are the only guard of your priceless treasure. One day I heard you and your treasure. One day I heard of you and your treasure. I became very interested. What could be so valuable that you would go to such great lengths to protect it? So I inquired here and there as to where you could be found. No one seemed to know precisely, but they all heard about you and the legend of your secret treasure. One man said, "You are not of this earth, but yet you come and visit the planet sometimes." I thought, how can I meet a man who is not of this world? Where could such a one be found? Then an amazing thing happened. I heard that you were here on a visit again, that you had taken your treasure out of your secret vault, that you would be using its great power to change the world. I was told that no one hears your name unless you will it. Not even a leaf has the power to move unless you will it. Who could you possibly be? Would I be here? Would I be there when you used your great treasure to change the world? Would I see it? Was it true that this would happen? Then out of the silence a voice spoke. It came out of his heart for everyone to hear. I bring the greatest treasure it is possible for man to receive. A treasure that includes all other treasures, that will endure forever, that increases when shared with others. Be ready to receive it. We have all heard that statement previously, I'm sure, but it has such deep meaning that this is a treasure of all treasures. So it made me think of the mafia. They want gold, they want treasure. Well, they should hear of this one. A kind of treasure that includes all treasures. Now, wait a minute. If you're really greedy and you really want treasure, this is one you have to go for. Yes. There was an old joke that said there was this mafia don. He said that he doesn't trust anyone except one person. And even that's one too many. But that's how it is when you live in the world where you seek the things of the world. But then Baba gets you to a point where you begin to seek something else, something within the self, rather than what's outside the self. And it's been going on like that now for ages. When St. Francis was asked, why did God make a saint out of you? He said, it's because he wanted to show everyone that in spite of all my wrongs and the things that I did that were not good before I became the saint, that if he could make a saint out of me, he could do it with anybody. So you all have a good chance. This, you know. So it's been said. Well, is that more?
If anybody else? Lunch is in a half an hour, so we can still keep talking if you want to just.
It's only been a half an hour.
Oh, lunch is in a half an hour.
Oh, all right, well.
So we can keep talking until then. You guys have anything else to say?
Any questions? Now's the time. Well, in that case, I have a question.
Oh, here we go.
I asked Baba at one time, I said to him, Baba, I want to know you as you really are. We were riding in the car at the time, and we were going to, I think it was to Madhusudan's place, if I'm not mistaken. there were so many things that happened then. So anyhow, we're riding in the car, and I asked him this. So he says to me, are you, are you ready to pay the price? See, to know the God state. Are you ready to pay the price? So the first thing that came to my mind is being burned at the stake. I had this image of being burned at the stake. So I'm thinking about this, wait a minute.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I can handle that, That was a bit much. But it was all in my own mind. It wasn't said or anything. So there was this long pause. And Baba was sitting there. He's just waiting for me to answer, I suppose, or he already knew, whatever. But just the same, that was it. And then I remembered later, this was later now, I remembered, see, there was no answer. What Baba did is he just patted me, after a while, he patted me on my leg, and, that, not to think about it, he would take care of it. That's what it meant. He wasn't speaking, but that's what it meant. So then, later, I thought about this, this here business, and I remembered that when I was a kid, I was about 15 at the time, and I was doing, I had this, what was called cold fire. And I poured a solution on a rag. I hold it in my hand, and it would blaze. And everybody thinks of fire as being hot, but this was not hot. This was just temperature of your body. And it would blaze, and it would be quite a spectacle for anybody to see you holding fire in your hand. So then I thought, well, wait a minute, being burned at the stake, it doesn't have to be hot. Everybody thinks it's got to be hot. But this came years later. But it is true that there was a chemical that would burn at a low temperature. And that's how come when it was poured on the rag, you can burn it. And it looks, like it would be burning you.
Wow.
The times with Baba was very interesting. There was this Madhusudan. Baba see, Madhusudan was a man that would sing these ghazals for Baba. Baba loved his singing. Oh boy, Baba would call him and he would sing, and ghazals. These are all songs about the pain of being, that God produced because it was so hard to see him, and what suffering you would go through to try and get to see him, and all like that. These were these ghazals. And Baba participated in the singing, with his motions and with his body language, and you would just be, just participating in the words that were being sung. Well, it turned out that Baba then said to Madhusudan that he wanted to come and visit him in his home. And Madhusudan said, no, Baba, you can't come to my house. Baba said, what, you don't want me to come to your house? He says, that's right, Baba, you should not come to my house. No, don't come to the house. And Baba said, tell me, why not? Why would you not want me there? And he said, because Baba, you're like an elephant. You come with so many people. They would never fit into my tiny apartment. I have such a tiny apartment and nobody would fit into it. And you can't come with all these people. They come in here. So you can't come to the house. So Baba said, never mind. But Baba is like the fox. You cannot outwit the fox. So what did Baba do? He tells one of his disciples, he says, call up Madhusudan's wife. Ask her what kind of event may be coming up soon, some sort of celebration. So they call and come back to Baba and they say, well, Baba, she says that there's going to be, Madhusudan's birthday is coming up, they're going to celebrate it. So Baba says, then tell the wife that I'm going to come to the celebration, but not to tell Madhusudan, you know, because I want it to be a surprise. A surprise to come. Well, it happened that I was there at that time when this was going on. And we were all riding in the car now to go to the celebration of Madhusudan birthday. And Baba goes into the house, and they had a chair for Baba, and Baba sat down. And there was a whole line of cars behind Baba that also would go, because whenever Baba was in place, everybody wanted to be with him. And everybody that was in those cars all got into the apartment. You see, and yeah, everybody is there, and Madhusudan comes in, and there's Baba sitting there, and there's all these people there, and everybody fit just fine. And there was, and then Baba just had him singing songs again. And that's what happened. That was Madhusudan. He loved Baba a lot, you know. He was one of Baba's favorites singers.
Question, a two-part question. Could you share with us your most poignant moment in Baba's presence and your most humbling or embarrassing moment?
It's a two-part question.
Good question.
I'll start with the humbling, embarrassing question.
There you go. That was good.
You get the worst over first.
Right, that's right.
Well, it turned out that Baba had always asked me and my brother to be very close to where he is, physically close, to be close to him. Now, on this particular morning, there was hundreds of people that had come to be there with Baba. And this was in Guru Prasad, in the large hall room that Baba would be in, that everybody would be sitting there on the carpets and close to Baba as much as they could be. So we came in, and there were all these people sitting there. And we thought, well, Baba said to be close to him, so we're going to step all over these people and get over to where Baba is. So Baba is looking now at us doing this. And he says that now we should go to the back of the room. You know, the motions to go to the back of the room. So I'm thinking something that Jesus said, those who are first will be last. And like that, you know. So now we're going to be, first we were first, now we can be last. See, we have a chance to be last. So Baba sent us back to the back. I didn't really feel bad about it, but I did know that Baba was not wanting us to stepping over everybody and doing that. He didn't like that. So maybe that's embarrassing, humbling.
Yeah.
I hope that fits the description that you asked.
Sufficiently humbling.
What was the first part?
The highest, this most poignant.
What was the most poignant thing? Well, I think that it came in the form of a letter. Yeah. And this letter, Baba said that I'm trying to remember the words exactly, the way he put it, because it was very poignant. That we would, okay, well, I'm going to paraphrase it. That we would be able to see him as he really is, that we would be, the way he put it, that we would be amongst the few that would actually see him as he really is. Now that was really impressive. So that'll happen whenever it happens, you know, to see him as he really is. that I thought was very powerful time for him to say a thing like that. You know, to be that way. Because, you know, I can wish well to people, others can wish well to me, but who has the authority or the power to make it happen? You see, that's the difference between Baba saying something and anybody else saying the same thing or a similar thing. Yeah.
You read a beautiful poem by Baba on Baba Jan at the tomb a year ago, a year and a half ago.
Baba Jan, yes.
It was so moving.
What?
It was so moving, the way you read it. It really impressed me of the depth of your experience with Baba, with God.
Well, I will say this, that Baba Jan, Baba loved Baba Jan so much. Whenever her name was mentioned, he would just sort of like be in bliss. And you have to be able to understand the reason why this is. Here it is, that she was the one to give him the enlightenment. She turned a boy into an avatar, into God himself. God realized. Who wouldn't like somebody like that?
What's not to like?
Somebody did that, you know, to me or to anybody. You would certainly like them, what they did. And I was thinking later, because Baba wrote a ghazal about that, about his enlightenment. I don't happen to have it here, but he wrote a ghazal about that. And he made mention in his ghazal about how much this Baba Jan, what it meant for him to be enlightened by her. So then I thought, everybody needs their Baba Jan. Who doesn't need their Baba Jan? You need a Baba Jan to do something like this. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. We do have our Baba Jan in Merwan, because she gave everything to him to give to us. You see, so she lives in him to give to us the same thing. So we have our Baba Jan through our Merwan. That's what occurred.
There's a question on the floor. Do you worry? If so, do you try not to worry? Also, how do you follow Baba's wishes?
About worrying?
I guess in general.
Well, I don't think, look, if Baba says to do something, you do it. That's it. That's you following his wish. Now, when he's not in the physical form and you just can't approach him and he's giving instruction. See, when Baba was giving orders, he was doing so in regards to his work as in the world. It's not the same as people following his wishes now, where he's not in the world to give instruction, because he was doing it pertaining to his work. You know, so they had to do everything he said, if they wanted to be with him. But for us, he wants us to stick to him. His big wish for us is just to stick with him, not to leave, but to try and keep him in mind, that we are there for him. He wants us to, you know, mentioning before about giving all our thoughts to him. Well, that can be done, to do like that. If you have a problem, if you have a thing. What I do when I have a problem and I can't resolve the worldly problem that I can't resolve so easily, then I write down on a note to Baba. I have his picture, and I put it by the picture. because I've expressed it. You see, when you write it down, you are expressing exactly what it is, different than when you just think about things. So I do it that way. That's my way of doing it. I had a friend, Phil Cowens, who used to do that. And boy, did he have problems. But his problems melted away. Boy, he became such a lover of God. And he was such a troublemaker before that. He was the most undisciplined person. He had so many problems, running around with the women and running around trying to make ends meet and do everything. And his mother was crazy trying to figure out to help him out until he finally came to Baba. When he came to Baba, he told his mother, he says, Mother, he didn't even give her any chance to prepare to understand this. He says, I'm going to India to God, because Mayor Baba is God. I'm going to go to India. And she fainted right on the spot. I was there, I saw this. She just passed right out. Well, she may have fainted then, but boy, did she give him a hard time later. But he took it all in, you know. He was so dedicated. He became so devoted to Baba that he forgot himself. You know, he literally forgot himself. He wasn't any more the same grievous person that had been before. He just didn't think of himself. He was only thinking of Baba and telling other people about Baba, and he would describe the God Speaks book to them, and you know, I mean, he was really quite a person after that. That's how Baba transformed him. He got transformed. Like that, you know. That's the way it went with him. Now, as far as worrying is concerned, well, I don't really worry. I feel concerned about things, but not worried. If I begin to think anything, and then I just remember what I said earlier, who's running the show? Once you know that, you can't worry the same way any longer. You know, who's running the show? Every time you start to get upset about somebody or something, who's running the show? And then you can settle down, see? Not bad, it's quite a show. It's very dramatic.
Very dramatic.
So did Baba ever remark when he turned in the car and asked you, what was it that Baba asked you in the car? What, are you willing to give everything up? Was that the question? And you thought, and tell us if you would say the question again. And then you thought about burning at the stake. Did he ever respond to that thought in your mind?
Well, yeah, but I think I said also, see what Baba did, because there was a long pause, I was just thinking about that, and that image happened to come into my mind, burning at the stake. And so nothing was said for a while, and then Baba just patted my leg, not to think about it. He would take care of it. That's what it meant. He didn't speak, but he gave me to understand that. Yeah. Not to be concerned about it. And then years later, I was telling you about the fire that I had when I was a kid. I had this fire that burned cold. Cold fire, I used to call it. It doesn't have to be hot.
Irwin, I was good friends with Eddie. He stayed at my house several times, and we were together in India several times. But there are people here who really didn't know Eddie. Maybe you can give us a flavor of your relationship with your brother Eddie, and Eddie's love and relationship to Baba.
Yeah, he had, well, Edward was the one that found the book, Listen Humanity, in the New York Library because he was looking for a book to further his acting career. He wasn't looking for that book, Baba's book. He was looking for a book to further his acting career, and he happens to see on the shelf this book says, Listen Humanity. And he told me later, he says, who would write a book with a title like that? Must be something important that he wants everybody to know, so he took the book off to see what was what, with the thing. So he reads it, he starts to read some of it, and he became very interested. He liked what he was reading, and he decided that he wanted to take the book out of the library. But Edward didn't like thick books, and this was a thick book. So he says, so he told me, he told the librarian that he wants to take the book out, but he thought that if there's any difficulty, he wouldn't do it. So the librarian says, oh, just sign here and take it out, and we have a card for you. So, well, that's easy. And he took it out, and that's how he came to hear and read about Mayor Baba. Now, when he did, he called me on the phone. He was in New York, I was in Miami. He calls me in, he says, I read this book about Mayor Baba. He says he's a God-realized master, and this is someone you should know about, because he knew I was interested in spiritual things at that time. So, okay, so he tells me about it, but I had absolutely no interest at the time. But he was telling me what he read. And then later, because I was having this inner guidance, I would call it, I was told, not in words, but told in direction. The direction was that I should go to New York. Something would happen where I'd gain a communication with God. Well, when I told my dad this, I had to leave and I would go to New York. This is where it began. He says, oh, why do these things always have to happen to me? I said, never mind. I'm going to go. Yeah, so anyhow, so I went to New York, and that's when I also met this priest in the church. And there was a church next door to the hotel where I was staying in. This hotel had stationery that said absolutely fireproof. I said, what's with this stationery fireproof? Who needs to know this? You know that the fireproof? They expect a fire. Anyhow, it was just part of the game. So, so then my brother had also said it was this priest in the church next door. His name was John Dam. I thought, John Dam. What a hell of a name for a priest. Anyhow, I went, nothing was happening, so I went to talk with him. And he tells me about this book, Autobiography of a Yogi, about a master that was, that this yogi had been following. And I thought, oh boy, what's going on? I'm here in this church with him. It's not even my religion. He's telling me about a yogi that's not his religion. And his name is John Dam. And he thinks that there's that he was an artist and he would paint these abstractions, and he thought that someday they would become very famous, these abstract paintings. And anyhow, he tells me about the book, Autobiography of Yogi. So I went to the library, I started to read it, and that's when I began to think about Mayor Baba. You know something? I really understand what this yogi was experiencing with his Kriya Yoga that he was doing, with giving him incredible experiences, inner experiences. I said, this is really a good path. But so I'm thinking of Mayor Baba then, that my brother said that he was a master. I wonder if he's as high a master as this Sharif Teswar was the name of that master. And then I got the book, Bliss in Humanity. But my brother, to answer your question, Angela, to answer your question, it turned out that he became quite a devotee of Theravada. And him and I really got along fine because we both began to share the same desire to be with Baba. And he would do anything what Baba would say. Just to give you an example, when he was drafted to go into the army, he received this letter, and he had planned to be a conscientious objector. He didn't want to do that. So at that point, we already knew about Theravada, so I said, why don't we just write to Baba and see what Baba says, what you should do about this. So he does, he writes. And Baba sends back a letter saying that he should now, you see, I'm going to backtrack a minute. Because when he went to the interview, to be interviewed about joining the army, because he got the letter, he told them he's not going in, he's going to be an objector, and they said, well, then we're going to have to, you'll have to pay the consequences of that decision. You may have to go to jail or whatever, you know, so they told him. And he still didn't want to do it. But then we wrote to Baba. Baba said, go in, don't hesitate, just go in, do your duty, do whatever they say. Basically, he said that. Not in those exact words, but that's what he said. So Edward then does a complete reversal because Baba told him this. So he goes in, and I was told to go with Edward to see to it that he joins the army. So I go, you know, with him, and he goes up to the sergeant, and the sergeant says, all right, here, you're going to sign this to go in. And now the sergeant is expecting, he ain't doing nothing. He's going to send him off to the brig to go to jail. Yeah, Edward just signs. The sergeant is shocked. He's shocked because he knew how he felt about this whole thing and how he was doing just the opposite. So he thinks there's something wrong with this man. Send him to the psychiatrist. So he sends him to the psychiatrist. After he comes out, in the meantime, I left because I dropped him off and I left. Now I get a call from him saying, come and pick me up. I said, pick you up? You're supposed to go on the bus to to basic training. So he says, no, they marked me 4F, I'm not suitable for the army. They marked me 4F. So I take him home. And then we contacted Baba. Baba wanted to know. He said that we should let him know what happens. So we told him that he was marked 4F and he would not be in. Had he not obeyed Baba, he would have been straight to jail. But because he obeyed Baba, he didn't have to go in. Baba had fixed it. But Baba did tell him, you go in. And Edward, he agreed to that. Everything good. So that's obeyed Baba.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Baba.
Thank you, Irwin.
Full time.
I always got a kick Irwin out of when he heard, I think, from
So my brother loved Baba dearly. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. He would do anything. And that was one of the tests that just proved it. It was a proof. How can you make up your mind you're not going to do something and then turn around, complete turnaround, and do exactly what he said?
Right.
You It always works out. I always found that whenever you follow Bob, it always worked out. There's one more story I want to tell you before, I don't know, I guess to get ready.
There's that.
This has to do with Sat Mang. Sat Mang lived in the village at the foot of the hill, where Mehrabad Hill. And there was a big village there, Arangon Village. And he was a thief and a murderer. This man was really something. He was a real bad guy. And he controlled the village the same way, the good old-fashioned way, through intimidation and violence. So no one dared to ever cross him that lived in that village. Now, Baba is up at the top of the hill, in Mehrabad. Baba decides that he wants to call Sat Mang to come up the hill. Now, a message is sent to Sat Mang to come up the hill because the man at the top of the hill wants to see him. And he thinks, what? I'm being beckoned by somebody? Huh, you beckoned yet? No. No one beckons Sat Mang. He does the beckoning. If he beckons you and you don't do what he says, then murder is no stranger to him. He'll see to it. You're going to do what he says. But this man at the top of the hill is beckoning me? So this is going through his mind. And he says, I'm not going anywhere. Beckon. So he decides that he's not going to go. But then his mind begins to work on him. Who is this that beckons me? How can somebody do this thing? Who is it? And his curiosity begins to really get to him. So he decides that he's going to go to the top of the hill, and he's going to see who this is, and he's going to bring with him his gang. So they go, and he's on his way to the top. Now, he gets there, and to the surprise of everyone, he prostrates himself before Baba. And you say, what? How can this man, he doesn't do these kind of things. Prostrate himself yet before somebody? And Baba tells him, you come up to be here when I called, but will you do my bidding? And then Baba tells him, you are a thief and murderer, and if you do as I say, then, and I'm paraphrasing again, if you do as I say, then I will take care of you and your family. But if you, before God, do not do, then, no. He says, but if you decide that you want to go your own way, then you can go, but you won't have my protection. You see, that's what he tells him. But if you'd say that you do, and you will do as I say, then before God, if you do not do this, you will become paralyzed. So you decide what you want to do. Tells him, talk about guts. This is gall. To tell this guy who listens to nobody such a thing. This man, he says, I will do what you say and be your disciple. Oh, okay. And he would do. And that man was transformed the moment that he made that decision. He kept it, you see. And he gave up his murderous ways. He gave up his thievery. And so did his gang, because they all followed him. And when Baba would hold a poor meeting, no, he would call these lepers and bow down before them. You know, Baba would do this here amongst the poor and the lepers. He would bow before them. He would have Satnam come and stand with them, and he would bow to Satnam also.
Wow.
This is the humility of the avatar, highest of the high, to the lowest of the low, to bring us everybody up. And that's what happened in Satnam. That whole village was transformed. When I went there, Padre took us through the village to meet the people, and they would talk and tell us on the films that we were doing what about Baba's visit when Baba would come. They all loved Baba. What's there not to love? So, all right, Mayor Baba.
Mayor Baba.
Baba ki jai. Avatar Baba ki jai. Avatar